Adding and subtracting real numbers. Our objective is to add and subtract real numbers. Why learn this? The total length of a penguin's dive can be determined by adding real numbers. Let's look at some vocabulary. An absolute value is the distance from zero on a number line. Opposites are two numbers whose sum is zero. An additive inverse is a number and its opposite. Let's look at adding and subtracting numbers on a number line. So we have -3. So we're starting at -3. Now we are going to add 6. So we're going to go to the right 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So therefore, -3 plus 6 equals 3. Try this next one on your own. Alright, so we're going to start at -2. So we're going to go back 2. And then we're going to go minus -9. So we're going to go minus -9, which means we're going to go to the right 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 puts us at 7. So -2 minus -9 gives you a positive 7. When adding numbers with the same sign, if two numbers have the same sign, add their absolute values and use the sign of those numbers. So for example, if you have 3 plus 6, 3 and 6 make 9, keep the symbol that's the same. They're both positive, so it's going to be a positive. When you're adding with two negatives, both of them are negatives, so add 2 and 9, which gives you 11, and they're both negative, so keep that minus sign. Adding numbers with different signs. If two numbers have different signs, find the difference of their absolute values and use the sign of the number with the greater absolute value. So if we look at -8 and 12, we're going to subtract the two numbers, which gives us 4, and then we're going to take the sign of the bigger number. So we have a 12 here, and we have an 8. 12 is bigger, and it's positive, so the end result will be positive. Let's look at this example. You have 3 plus -15. All right, so let's subtract 15 and 3. We get 12. Which one has the bigger value? So we've got 15 and 3. 15 is bigger, so we're going to take that negative sign and we're going to keep it. So it's going to be -12. Let's try adding real numbers. So we have -3 plus -16. So we're going to add 3 plus 16, since both of them have the same sign. And that brings us to 19. And then what's the sign that they both have? Well, they're both a minus, so it's going to be a minus sign. All right, we have x equals -13, so we're going to substitute -13 in for x. So we now have -13 plus 7. The signs are different, so that means we need to subtract their absolute values. So we have 13 minus 7, which gives us 6. Which one has the larger absolute value, 13 or 7? 13 does, and it has the minus sign, so your end result is going to have a negative. Subtracting real numbers. It's a good idea to understand additive inverses. So if we have 11 minus 6, we know that equals 5. Well, 11 minus 6 is the same thing as saying 11 plus negative 6. Both of them are going to give you 5. To subtract a number, add its opposite. Then follow the rules for addition. So if we have 3 minus 8, we're going to have 3 plus negative 8. The signs are different, so subtract their absolute values, and then keep the sign of the bigger absolute value. So we have 8 minus 3 is 5. Okay, so now we have 8 and 3. Is 8 larger or 3 larger? 8 is. So that's the one with the negative. So now we're going to take that negative and stick it in front of our 5. Let's practice. So we have 7 minus 10. We can rewrite this as 7 plus negative 10. The signs are different, so therefore we're going to subtract. So we have 10 minus 7, which is 3. We have one more step. Is the absolute value of 10 or 7 larger? The absolute value of this 10 is larger, so we're going to keep the negative. So negative 3. Let's try looking at B. We have negative 3 minus negative 12. Well, subtracting, we can add the opposite. So if we're adding the opposite of negative, it's just going to be adding a positive. So we have negative 3 plus 12. Our signs are different. So because our signs are different, we're going to subtract their absolute value. So we've got 12 minus 3, which gives us 9. And now we need to figure out whether it's positive or negative. Well, the absolute value of negative 3 and 12. 12 is larger, so therefore we're going to have a positive 9. Let's look at C. We have x minus 22 and x equals negative 11. So we're going to substitute negative 11 in for x and then try to solve. So we have negative 11 minus 22. We can rewrite this as negative 11 plus negative 22. The signs are the same, so we're just going to add our absolute values. So 22 plus 11 is 33. And now we need to keep whatever sign it was. So both of them were negative, so therefore it's going to have a minus sign or a negative sign. Let's look at a biology application. An emperor penguin stands on an iceberg that extends 10 feet above the water. Then the penguin dives to an elevation of negative 67 feet to catch a fish. What is the total length of the penguin's dive? Try to use what we've just learned and solve this question. Now that you've had a chance to try it on your own, let's try it together. Well, let's start with, we have the elevation of the iceberg, and we're going to subtract the elevation of the fish. That's what we're looking at in words. So the elevation of the iceberg is 10, and then we're going to subtract the elevation of the fish, which is negative 67. So 10 minus negative 67, if we're subtracting, we can change that to an addition problem and switch the sign to the opposite. So we have 10 plus positive 67, which means that the total length of the penguin's dive is 77 feet. And that ends our lesson on adding and subtracting real numbers.